Hare Krishna, welcome all of you for today's Srimad Bhagavatam session. Let us begin with prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 6, Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. Text 1. Suta Uvacha Evam Nishamya Bhagavan Devarshirjanma Karma cha Bhuya Paprachatam Brahman Vyasas Satyavati Sutaha. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Suta Goswami said, O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Sri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, inquired as follows. Purport. Vyasadeva was further inquisitive to know about the perfection of Naradji, and therefore he wanted to know about him more and more. In this chapter, Naradji will describe how he was able to have a brief audience with the Lord while he was absorbed in the transcendental thought of separation from the Lord and when it was very painful for him. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So we are beginning a new chapter today in the first canto of Bhagavatam. This is chapter 6, conversation between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva. Already the conversation has begun. We already saw that in the previous chapter. Narad Muni had described about his past life to his disciple Srila Vyasadeva, and Narad Muni had emphasized the importance of association of devotees, the importance of hearing about the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the association of such devotees. Narad Muni gives a testimony from his own life that how in his past life, even though he was a small boy, he got the great opportunity to hear about Krishna in the association of the pure devotees, the Bhakti Vedantas, during the Chaturmasya, the 4 months of the rainy season. And how Narad Muni also describes that how in the association of those devotees, he became very attached to the process of hearing about Krishna. And we had discussed previously that if we want to attain Vasudeva Katha Ruchi, if we want to attain taste for hearing about Krishna, the only way is by receiving the mercy of pure devotees of the Lord. Only when we please the pure devotees of the Lord with our humble service, by their blessings, we can become attached to the process of hearing about Krishna. Generally, we find pleasure in hearing about so many subject matters in this world, but actual subject matter which we are supposed to hear as human beings is Vasudeva Katha or Krishna Katha. We have to hear about Krishna, and that is a perfection of our sense of hearing. Just by hearing about Krishna from the lips of a pure devotee, all our ignorance will be destroyed, and we can attain the highest perfection of going back to the spiritual world. Therefore, ears are known as the gateway for liberation. Simply, we have to sit down and hear about Krishna as described by the great devotees, and by this simple process of hearing, we can attain perfection. And the perfect example for this is Maharaj Parikshit himself. Maharaj Parikshit, he had only 7 days' time before he died, so he made the best use of that time by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami, the pure devotee of the Lord. And by such submissive hearing, Parikshit Maharaj actually conquered the fear of death. He also conquered death itself. He attained liberation at the end of those 7 days and he went back to Godhead. So, just by the process of hearing Krishna Katha, one can actually attain perfection. So, Narad Muni said, when I served the pure devotees during the Chaturmasya, they were very happy with me, and I got the great opportunity to hear Krishna Katha from them. And this, in this way, my spiritual journey began. So, our spiritual journey begins when we actually come in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord. Many times we keep hearing from our friends and relatives about turning point in our life. When we were facing, for example, the 10th standard board exam, our parents and friends and relatives would say, "Oh, this is a turning point in your life. You should really work hard and study. After this, your life will be set." And then after that, there'll be one more exam. 12th standard board exam will come. Again, everybody will come and tell, "Oh, this is the turning point in your life." Or somebody will say after that, if you get a job, that is a turning point in your life. Get a good job. And after that, somebody will say, if you get a good life partner, that is the real turning point in your life. But actually, none of these are actual turning points. The real turning point in our life is the point when the time when we come in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord. That is the real turning point. Because by coming in touch with a pure devotee spiritual master, it's like a 180-degree phase shift which happens in our life. Our life will be going in one direction, driven by our karma, driven by our thoughts, our desires. But when we come in touch with a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, by the influence and association of such a pure devotee, our consciousness will change. It's like all the while we are going in one direction away from Krishna, but the moment we hear from pure devotee, we start coming towards Krishna. So, everybody in this material world, we are all planning so many things, how to enjoy, how to plan, and all of those things. But these are all taking us away from Krishna. But only when a pure devotee's mercy enters our life, then we start turning our face towards Krishna, and that is actually the real turning point in our life. So, it has happened with all of us. Prabhupada has mercifully intervened in our material journey, and he is giving us opportunities to turn towards Krishna by hearing about Krishna, by chanting his holy names, by associating with his books, by coming to his temples. So, this is the way actually our karma changes. Without the intervention, the merciful intervention of a pure devotee spiritual master, it is not possible for us to actually, uh, change our consciousness ourselves from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So, what happened to this boy Narada in his past life is the same thing. The association of the pure devotees changed the track of his life. He became very attached to hearing about Krishna, and by the when at the end of those 4 months of Chaturmasya, when the pure devotees left from that place, they gave certain instructions to Narad Muni, and Narad Muni very seriously, I mean, he was not Narad Muni still in that lifetime, he was a boy. So he very seriously followed those instructions. So this chapter is beginning with, the words spoken by Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami is narrating the entire Bhagavatam to the Shaunakadi Rishis. who are sitting in the Naimisharanya forest. So Suta Goswami is saying, Evam Nishamya Bhagavan Devarsher Janma Karma Cha. Nishamya means hearing. Evam in this way. Bhagavan here. Bhagavan is referring to Narad Muni here because Narad Muni, sorry, here it is referring to Vyasadeva, Bhagavan, because Vyasadeva is actually an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Right? So Evam Nishamya Bhagavan Devarsher Janma Karmacha. What did Vyasadeva hear from Narad Muni? His Janma and Karma, his birth and his activities, especially after coming in touch with the pure devotees. And we know Narad Muni is known as Deva Rishi because he is the Rishi, the sage among the Devatas. And Vyasadeva is Brahmarshi, he is a sage among the Brahmanas. Parikshit Maharaj is known as Rajarshi because he is a sage among the kings. So, like this, there are different categories Devarshi, Brahmarshi, Rajarshi, etc. So, here Devarshi is referring to Narad Muni. And after hearing about his past life, Vyasadeva is asking something. Bhuyaha paprachatam Brahman. Here, Brahman refers to Brahmana, O Brahmanas of Naimisharanya. Bhuyaha, again, papracha. Papracha means asked. Vyasadeva asked Narad Muni. Vyasaha Satyavati Sutaha. So here Vyasadeva is referred to as Satyavati Sutaha, the son of Satyavati. So after hearing the past life of the boy of Narad Muni, Vyasadeva got some doubt in his mind. He got some questions in his mind. And again, he began to ask those questions to uh, Narad Muni. That is the meaning of this shloka. Now, what is the quality that is highlighted here? The inquisitiveness. So, Vyasadeva, he heard very nicely, he heard whatever Narad Muni talked about his past life, but then he wanted to know more. What actually happened after Narada in his past life, the boy, received the mercy and blessings and association of those pure devotees? What actually happened in the life of uh, Narada? This was the question, right? This was the question. So, uh, it is inquisitiveness. So, the first quality of a person who is interested to make spiritual advancement is to ask relevant questions, to be Brahma Jignasu, to be inquisitive to know topics connected with the supreme absolute truth. That is the foremost qualification of a person who is interested to make spiritual advancement. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyeta Jignasu Shreya Uttamam. Bhagavatam says, if you are inquisitive to know about your ultimate good, then you should approach a bona fide spiritual master. One should not go to a spiritual master simply for a ritual purpose, or one should not go to a spiritual master out of fashion. Oh, it's a fashionable thing to have a guru, so I will also go to a guru. No, that is not the mood in which one must approach the bona fide spiritual master. One must be jignasuhu shreyaha uttamam. One must be interested in the ultimate good of one's life. That is, one must be inquisitive to know about Krishna, about transcendental subject matter. Only then one should approach a bona fide spiritual master. So, the Vedanta Sutras also say, Athato Brahma Jignasa. Athatha means now that you have come to this human form of life, after going through so many species of life, now you have come to the human form of life. Now you must be asking questions only pertaining to Brahman, only pertaining to the supreme absolute truth. In all other species of life, you were asking questions about how to get food, how to get shelter, how to get mate, how to get protection, how to defend oneself. All these things you were asking. But now you have got this human form of life, which is the most sophisticated among all the species of life. because this human form of life affords us an opportunity to cut the cycle of birth and death, to go back to the spiritual world, and that should be the goal of life. Now you should ask questions, something connected with that ultimate goal of life. This is called Brahma Jignasa. In the Bhagavatam, in the very beginning, also we have read this. Jivasya Tattva Jignasa. It is said human life is actually meant for Tattva Jignasa, inquiring about the absolute truth. We have been dabbling with relative truths life after life in various species of life, but now that we have got human form of life, we should actually ask questions about the supreme absolute truth, Krishna. This is very, very important. So, Vyasadeva is teaching us by his own personal behavior. Vyasadeva is the original Acharya. He is the ultimate Acharya. Acharya means one who teaches by one's achara, one's personal behavior. So Vyasadeva, even though he is incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he is inquiring from his spiritual master, Narad Muni, with great inquisitiveness about what happened to him after he received the association and blessings from the pure devotees. So, following in the footsteps of Vyasadeva, we must also show spiritual inquisitiveness. It's very, very important. Generally, we are interested to know things uh, if it is going to be beneficial for us, or if it is going to be immediately beneficial, that is prayers. Then we ask, we show so much interest, and we try to find out more details about those topics. But actually, Bhagavatam says we should be interested in our Shreyas, not just prayers. Prayers means immediate good. Shreyas means long term good. All material topics may give us immediate good. It may give us some immediate entertainment. Hmm? Like we ask, what is the recent latest movie which has become blockbuster hit? Oh, when is that released? When is it going to be releasing? When is the next cricket match going to happen? You know, when recently RCB won the cup, everybody was so, it was as though all the people, they themselves won the cup, because 18 years they were waiting. When will RCB win the cup? When will RCB win the cup? And once they got it, so they were all so much happy, jubilant, and they were celebrating. Whole night they were bursting crackers as though they got some benefit. See, this is how Maya cheats everybody in the material world. Huh? In the material world, people are celebrating for things which they actually are not going to be benefited at all. Hmm? So, this is how the influence of Kali, compounded by Maya's effect, bewilders us, and we spend our valuable time, human form of life, inquiring and pursuing some temporary, useless things. And this is called vimohitaha, being very much bewildered by the influence of Maya. That is our position. So, therefore, the Vedic scriptures say, okay, you're asking questions about prayers, that is immediate good and some entertainment and all of that. Who will ask questions about your ultimate benefit, Shreyas, that you should do in human form of life? No, you should actually inquire about that. Why you are not asking that? So, Bhagavatam is so beautiful that even if you don't have such questions, just by reading and hearing Bhagavatam, by hearing the questions asked by great devotees, some desire will come in our heart. Oh, I should also ask like this. See, Vyasadeva, even though he's incarnation of God, he's so much inquisitive to know from his spiritual master how to make advancement in spiritual life. If Vyasadeva himself has to ask, then what about me? I should also ask, no? So we will develop a desire to ask, to inquire about transcendental subject matters when we read Bhagavatam. That's the speciality of Bhagavatam. So all the questions that we are supposed to ask as human beings, already great devotees have already asked those questions in the Bhagavatam, and great devotees have replied to those questions also. What a great fortune, isn't it? Even without having such spiritual inquisitiveness, if you simply read Bhagavatam, you will get to know what questions I should ask, and you'll also get to know what answers I should be seeking. What are the answers to those life's hardest questions? So that is why we must read Bhagavatam, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So let's see what is the question exactly that Vyasadeva asked. So someone asked in the chat box, what is the chapter we are reading? We are in the first canto of Bhagavatam, chapter 6. We just began. Now we are reading the second shloka, 1.6.2. Text 2. Vyasa uvacha भिक्षुभिर्विप्रवसिते विज्ञाने द्रेष्टुभिस्तव वर्तमानो वयस्याद्ये ततः किम् अकरोत् भवान्. So Vyasadeva is asking, translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Sri Vyasadeva said, what did you, Narada, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vyasadeva himself was the disciple of Naradji, and therefore it was natural to be anxious to hear what Narada did after initiation from the spiritual masters. He wanted to follow in Narada's footsteps in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. This desire to inquire from the spiritual master is an essential factor to the progressive path. This process is technically known as Sadharma Pruchha. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So Vyasa Uvacha, Vyasadeva is speaking. Bhikshubir, Bhikshubhihi means the great mendicants, the sannyasis, the Bhakti Vedantas, the pure devotees of the Lord. They are called Bhikshubhihi because they would beg alms from others and maintain themselves. So they had completely dedicated themselves for spiritual pursuit. So they would not actually spend time earning their livelihood. Instead, they would lead a very simple life. Simple living and high thinking is actually the qualification of a real sadhu. A sadhu is one who is fully devoted to the Supreme Lord, and he doesn't want to waste even a single moment of his life in any activity other than serving the Supreme Lord. So, therefore, materially, they don't try to improve their positions in the material world. That is not the quality of a real sadhu. A real sadhu wants to always improve his consciousness, his service attitude to the Lord, and also he wants to spread this knowledge of devotional service to more and more people. That is the qualification of a real sadhu. Therefore, materially, they are impoverished. They are, they appear to be beggars. They go and beg alms from two or three houses a day, and whatever they get from begging, they will use it for maintaining themselves, their bodies. So, Prabhupada mentions elsewhere that the sadhus, they actually appear to be begging, but actually they go door to door out of their compassion, because in the guise of begging alms from the householders who are generally materially absorbed, the sadhus go and speak Krishna Katha. They go and speak about transcendental subject matters so that the materially absorbed householders get an opportunity of sadhu sangha. That's the actual purpose. So therefore, they are described here as bhikshubhihi, the beggars. They ask bhiksha from others for their maintenance. So bhikshubhir, the great mendicants, vipravasite, vipra avasite, having departed for other places. So at the end of the Chaturmasya, the traveling mendicants, they continue their travel and they go about and preach the message of Krishna consciousness. But during the 4 months of rainy season, they would not travel. So they stayed in one place. So that is how they were staying in that village where Narada and his mother in his past life they were living. and they got the opportunity to serve them. So, Bhikshubhir Vipravasite Vijnana Vijnana Adeshtrabihi. Adeshtrabihi means those who had instructed. Vijnana means the scientific knowledge in transcendence, the spiritual subject matter, transcendental knowledge. Tava, for you, of you. Vartamanaha, present. Vayasi, the duration of life. Adye, before the beginning of. Tataha, after that. Kim akarot, what did you do? Bhavan, your good self. So Vyasadeva is asking, after the great sages, Bhikshubhihi, departed, they left that place, Vipravasite, after instructing you on the transcendental subject matter, Vijnana Adreshtrabihi Tava, uh, and before the beginning of your present birth as the great sage Narad Muni in this lifetime, Vartamano Vayasi Adye, in the beginning, Tata Kim Akarod Bhavan, what did you actually do? This is the question asked by Vyasadeva. That means, after receiving initiation from the pure devotees, what did you do? Is the question. Initiation is the beginning of one's spiritual life. Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, out of the many, many millions of wandering souls in this material world, uh, that soul which has actually received, who has actually received the combined mercy of Guru and Krishna, and has thus got the seed of Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service, is actually the most fortunate soul. He's called Bhagyavan. So, Narad Muni, in his past life as a boy, as a son of a maid servant, he received transcendental knowledge and the seed of bhakti from those pure devotees. In this way, he was initiated into the journey of spiritual life. So, Vyasadeva wants to know what happened after that initiation. Now, this is a very important thing. Initiation is the beginning of one's spiritual life, as I said. But what one does after initiation, that is very, very important. Hmm? So Prabhupada says, initiation, if you receive, it doesn't mean you have attained perfection. Initiation is just the beginning. So when a person wants to seriously seek after transcendental knowledge, practice, lead a life based on the transcendental knowledge, then one must go to a spiritual master and receive initiation from him. And after initiation, what does one do? One actually has to engage in devotional service under the guidance of the pure devotee spiritual master. So, initiation means it's a serious commitment that now I shall actually serve my spiritual master's instructions. Whatever my spiritual master has told, I will act according to that. And I have firm faith that by acting according to the instructions given by my spiritual master, I will surely attain success. With this faith, when one engages in devotional service under the guidance of spiritual master, then that is called an initiated life. That means the spiritual journey, spiritual quest has begun, right? That is the meaning. So Prabhupada, once what happened in the beginning in the US when Prabhupada conducted the first initiation ceremony, so the hippies used to come, the devotees, the young Americans used to come and attend Prabhupada's classes regularly, Bhagavad Gita, and they were also chanting. They were all very interested to explore um, Krishna consciousness. And by the time they had also developed a taste for chanting and hearing about Krishna because of the wonderful association of Srila Prabhupada, and they had also given up their almost given up their past bad habits. So Prabhupada said, now you can take initiation like that. So they were all like, what is initiation? You know, he said, Prabhupada said, tomorrow you come, I shall accept you as my disciples formally. And so Prabhupada arranged a yajna performance, and Prabhupada spiritual names to all of his new disciples. And all the disciples in front of Srila Prabhupada, they made a commitment that they shall chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. And Prabhupada also asked, can you tell me what are the four regulative principles that you are supposed to follow? So they all told one by one: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. We shall follow this from today onwards very rigidly. Like that, they gave a strong commitment to Srila Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada gave them their spiritual names. And the names all, you know, spiritual names ends with Dasa or Dasi. If it is a male devotee, the name ends with Dasa. For women devotees, it is Dasi, Devi Dasi, like that. So uh, after the initiation was over, you know, on one such occasion, all these disciples who got new names, they were all very excited about their names. So they were discussing the meanings of their names. And so one disciple was telling, "Oh, my name is very simple name, you know, but your name is so special. It is directly connected with Vrindavan pastimes. Your name is very special." So like this, they were talking amongst each other. And Prabhupada happened to overhear this. Prabhupada heard this. So somebody is saying, my name is not so special, your name is very special, like this. They were talking among themselves, and Prabhupada heard this. And Prabhupada immediately, you know, intervened them and told, you know, the most important part of your name is the last part, Dasa. That is the most important part. Dasa means you are servant of the Supreme Lord. Now that you have got initiated, you have to engage in the service of the Supreme Lord. That is the meaning of getting initiated, right? You have to follow the instructions of the spiritual master and serve the Supreme Lord under his guidance. That is the meaning of your spiritual name. So, no name is great or no name. All are names of Krishna only. And you're all now become servants of Krishna. So, focus on the dasa part of your spiritual name. So Prabhupada said like that. So therefore, post initiation, what should a disciple do? Prabhupada said, one must engage in service of the Lord. Now there is a statement where Prabhupada says, whoever has read my books is already initiated. So whoever reads Srila Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada is giving Divya Jnana, the transcendental knowledge. And when one practices what Prabhupada has said in his books, already the Diksha process, the Diksha Vidhana has begun. Hmm? So Diksha means what? Di means Divya Jnana, Ksha means Papasya Sankshayam. Divya Jnana Diksha means the process in which the spiritual master accepts the disciple and gives transcendental knowledge and also takes away the reactions of his past sinful life. That is the meaning of Diksha. Now, Prabhupada said Diksha is a process. It is not a one-time phenomenon. It's not that, many times in the Mayavadi school this happens. Mayavadi guru will be sitting on an elevated position and the disciple will come in front of him and the guru will touch the head of the disciple and a kind of electricity kind of transfer of power or knowledge happens from the guru to the disciple, and the disciple will start showing some special symptoms as though he got some electric shock or something like that. And then the guru says that now I have given you Diksha, you have become my disciple. No, this is such kind of a cheap thing is not Diksha. Diksha is not some one time process where somebody touches you and you become electrified and all of that. No, Diksha is a process. It's a process of purification. It's a process where the disciple agrees to subordinate himself to the instructions of the spiritual master. A disciple agrees to lead a life controlled by the instructions of the spiritual master, and based on the level of surrender of the disciple, the spiritual master uh, keeps revealing transcendental knowledge to him from within his heart. Divya Jnana Hriday Prakashita. and also based on how this disciple engages in service, displays service attitude, the spiritual master also takes away the karma reactions of this of the disciple. And it is a kind of agreement between the disciple and the spiritual master. The disciple agrees to follow the instructions of the spiritual master very seriously, and in return, the spiritual master agrees to deliver that disciple back home, back to Godhead. So it is a very serious commitment between the disciple and the spiritual master. And it is not restricted to one lifetime, but Chakshudan Diloje Janme Janme Prabhu se. It is a life after life commitment. It's an eternal commitment. Once you accept somebody as your spiritual master, of course, that somebody has to be an empowered acharya coming in the bona fide sampradaya, who is empowered, who is 100% pure devotee of the Lord. One cannot accept somebody, anybody and everybody as a guru. One has to be, the guru has to be a Uttamadhikari, pure devotee coming in the disciplic succession starting from Krishna himself. So if one accepts such a bona fide spiritual master, then it is a life after life commitment. That means as long as the disciple does not go back to Godhead, the spiritual master remains in the material world and makes sure that this disciple goes back to the spiritual world. That's a serious commitment. That means the spiritual master who has got complete connection with Krishna, only such a spiritual master can actually take this responsibility of delivering a fallen soul, conditioned soul back to God. So it's a very serious commitment, right? So therefore, Prabhupada says in one place, disciple, the word disciple comes, Sanskrit word is shishya. The word shishya comes from the Sanskrit root word shas dhatu. It is the same dhatu which makes the other words like shastra, shastra, etc. Shas means control. So, disciple or shishya is one who voluntarily accepts to be controlled by the instructions of the spiritual master. He is called a shishya, right? So, it is not a matter of fashion. Oh, I have also got one spiritual master. I also have one guru. No, it's not a fashionable thing. It is a serious commitment when one accepts the spiritual master. So one has to be very careful to obey the spiritual master's instructions very, very seriously. That is a disciple's duty. It is binding upon the disciple to follow the instructions of the spiritual master very, very diligently. And in return, the spiritual master delivers the disciple back to home, back to Godhead. So when we disobey the spiritual master, we get disconnected from him. We get deviated from the actual path of spiritual journey, and we also get disempowered to practice or to preach Krishna consciousness. So the whole guru shishya relationship is based on the discipline of obedience. That's a very, very important thing. Without obeying, when I say I am a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, what does it mean? I am agreeing voluntarily to control, to be controlled by the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. That is the meaning of disciple. Prabhupada also said, disciple means discipline. Discipline of obeying, obedience to the instructions of the spiritual master. So these are all very, very important things. So accepting the spiritual master. So I was telling that Prabhupada said, anyone who reads my book, he is already initiated. That means his spiritual journey has begun. Now, Prabhupada also said this formal Diksha ceremony is also important because that solidifies the actual relationship between Prabhupada and the disciples. So that is also important, but that is the heart of the entire Diksha process, the formal initiation ceremony. But it is just the beginning. And after that, a disciple has to lead a life simply based on the instructions of the spiritual master. So here, Vyasadeva's question to Narad Muni that after those sages departed at the end of the Chaturmasya, you had already got instructions on the transcendental subject matter from them. What did you actually do? This is very, very significant question. If Vyasadeva is asking, that means it is very, very important question, right? After receiving the spiritual knowledge and Diksha, what does a disciple do? A disciple has to simply follow the orders of the spiritual master. So let's see. Vyasadeva further continues to ask this question. Let's see the next shloka, text 3. स्वायम्भुवकया वृत्त्या वर्तितं ते परं वयः कथं चेदम् उदस्राक्षीः काले प्राप्ते कलेवरम्. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Vyasadeva continued, O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation, and how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? Purport. Sri Narad Muni in his previous life was just an ordinary maid servant's son. So, how he became so perfectly transformed into the spiritual body of eternal life, bliss, and knowledge is certainly important. Sri Vyasadeva desired him to disclose the facts for everyone's satisfaction. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So, Swayam Bhuva Kaya Vritya. Kaya means under what condition. Vritya means occupation. Swayambhuva means the son of Swayambhu, Brahma. Brahma is called Swayambhu because he came from the Supreme Lord, from his navel, from the lotus of the navel of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is called Swayambhu, and the son of Swayambhu is called Swayambhuva, that is Narad Muni. So, here, uh, Vyasadeva is asking, Swayambhuva kaya vritya vartitam. Vartitam te param. Param means after the initiation was over. How did you spend your time? What occupation were you engaged in during your entire duration of life? Vayaha. And katham cha idam udasrakshihi. Udasrakshi means did you quit? Katham means how. How did you quit that old body of the son of a maid servant and get this particular body that you're having now, that you got now, that is Narad Muni's body? Kale, in due course of time, prapte kalevaram. Praptaha means you have attained this spiritual body currently as Narad Muni. This kalevaram, this body you have got. How did you achieve this? Now it's very natural, isn't it? Suppose you meet a devotee who is advanced, you will ask the devotee, Prabhu, how did your spiritual journey begin? When did you start serving? And what are your realizations of these many years of practicing and serving? And what was your turning point in your life? All such questions we ask, isn't it? When we meet a senior devotee to take inspiration from that. Similar thing, Narad Muni is being asked by Vyasadeva. So Prabhupada mentions in the previous purport, this desire to inquire from the spiritual master is an essential factor to the progressive path. This process is technically known as Sadharma Pricha. Pricha means questioning. Sadharma means being inquisitive about the actual path of devotional service. Right? So he's asking, Vyasadeva is asking, O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? So, because this is a multi life story that Narad Muni is telling, isn't it? Narad Muni is not telling something which happened to him in that particular life. He said, in the past life, I was the son of a maid servant, and I met those pure devotees during Chaturmasya, and all of this happened, and I became attached to Krishna consciousness. So Narad Muni told all these things, and Vyasadeva is now asking, how did this transformation happen? You were actually son of a maid servant, and you only told that you got instructions from your spiritual master and they departed after the 4 months of rainy season. After that, what happened? You're not told us. Please, can you please tell us what happened? How did you get this special body of Narad Muni? This is very important. See, Narad Muni's position is very special. Prabhupada calls Narad Muni as a transcendental spaceman. So, uh, just today, I think the some of the astronauts who had gone uh, in the International Space Station, they have just landed up in California today. In that, one of them is a Indian also, and all the Indians are very excited. Oh, the, they spent for so many days, I think 18 days or something, in the space, and they have come back now. But you see, these spacemen, the difference between these spacemen who are traveling around the Earth in the orbit, they were docked to the International Space Station (ISS). What is the difference between those spacemen and Narad Muni? Narad Muni is also a spaceman. The difference is Narad Muni could travel at his will without any mechanical means, and he could travel to all the entire planetary systems in the entire universe without any restriction. Simply by his willing, he could travel. But unlike our modern day astronauts, they need a mechanical means to go from one place to another place, and there are so many restrictions. It's not a liberated stage. Definitely because they are restricted. You know, After they come back to the Earth, they will go through certain treatment because they have to now get adjusted to um, the gravity of the Earth, the atmosphere of the Earth. All this while they were living in microgravity situation inside their space vehicle. So there's a difference. So when one attains liberation, one act like Narad Muni, one can actually become free from all material restrictions. So Narad Muni travels freely everywhere. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has nicely glorified Narad Muni in a special bhajan. Narad Muni bhajai veena radhika ramana nami. So what does Narad Muni do? He travels all over the universe and he simply chants the holy name of Krishna playing on his veena. And in this way, he spreads the holy name all over the world. In fact, he is welcome not only in the assembly of the Devatas, but he is also equally welcome even by the Asuras and demons. That is the credibility of Narad Muni. Dhira dhira priyau priyakarau. Even the adhiras, the not so sober people, not gentle people like the demons, also they respectfully receive Narad Muni and hear what he has to say. That is the position of Narad Muni. So Vyasadeva wants to know that previously you were a son of an ordinary maid servant. Now you have become perfectly transformed. You have got a spiritual body which has no restrictions, which can travel at will anywhere within the universe, and you are leading a eternal life full of knowledge and bliss. Now, how did this transformation happen? What led to this transformation? So these were the things Vyasadeva desired to know directly from Narad Muni. Let's go to the next shloka, text 4. Prakalpavishayametam smritim te muni sattama nahyesha vyavadhat kala yesha sarva nirakritihi. Translation and purport by Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Vyasadeva continued, O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As spirit is not annihilated even after the annihilation of the material body, so also spiritual consciousness is not annihilated. Sri Narada developed this spiritual consciousness even when he had his material body in the previous kalpa. Consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of a material body. This consciousness is inferior, destructible, and perverted. But superconsciousness of the supra-mind in the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit soul and is never annihilated. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. So Narad Muni is being asked these questions by Vyasadeva. So what is Vyasadeva saying in this shloka? Prak kalpa. Prak means previous, prior. Kalpa means the duration of Brahma's day. Prak kalpa vishayam etam. Vishaya means subject matter. Etam means all of these things that you are saying about your past life. They all pertain to the past kalpa of Brahma. They did not happen in this present day of Brahma. It happened in the previous day of Brahma. That Narad Muni being born as a son of a maid servant and being blessed by the pure devotees, all that, it happened in the past kalpa, previous day of Brahma. Smritim te muni sattama. But you still remember all these things. Smritim, remembrance. Muni sattama, O best among the sages, O great sage. You're able to hear, you're able to remember all that which happened in the previous kalpa, previous day of Lord Brahma. Nahi esha vyavadhat kala. Vyavadhat means made any difference. Kalaha, course of time. So time has not taken away your memory. How is it possible? Hmm? Generally, what we do, even if we ask our own selves, what I was doing in the past 24 hours, just now it is, let's say, 9 o'clock. Yesterday, 9 p.m., what exactly I was doing? If somebody asks, it's not so easy to recollect. We take some time, recollect, and then roughly we say something, isn't it? But here, this is not just a matter of 24 hours or not even one lifetime, but it is the age, the time gap is between two kalpas of Brahma, 2 days of Brahma. You know, one kalpa of Brahma is what? 1000 cycles of Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yugas. That's one kalpa of Brahma, 1000, right? Sahasra Yoga Paryantam Aharyat Brahmano Viduhu. In the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Ahar means day. Day of Brahma is what? Sahasra Yoga Paryantam. 1000 cycles of all the four yugas together is actually 1 day time of Brahma, 12 hours of Brahma. And that's called one kalpa. And equal is his night also, where he goes to sleep. 12 hours of Brahma is also that night. So, you are able to remember something which happened in the previous kalpa of Brahma. Time has not influenced it. It is still fresh in your memory without being disturbed by time. Yesha sarva nirakritihi. Generally, the time, what does it do? It nirakritihi. It annihilates, it destroys everything. Kala kalayatam aham. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Among the devouring factors, I am Kala, I am time. So Kala's influence is what? Lokakshaya. Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravrittaha. You know, this is the answer reply given. Krishna gives this, the universal form of the Lord gives this reply to Arjuna in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. When Arjuna asks, who are you? After seeing the universal form of Krishna, Arjuna asks, who are you? And Krishna says, Kalosmi lokakshaya krit pravrittaha. I am Kala and I have come to devour, destroy everything that is existing here in the material world. So Kala is actually the representation of Krishna in the material world, and Kala no one can surpass. And what does Kala do? It simply destroys everything. So Vyasadeva is surprised. Kala destroys everything, including one's memory of one's past life. But how is that you're able to remember and tell me everything exactly what happened in your past life? How is it still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? You know, these are questions. This question is very similar to Arjuna's question to Krishna in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in the very beginning. When Krishna told in the very beginning that I have instructed this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manave praha manurikshvatave bravi. Evam parampara praptam mimam rajarshayo viduhu sakaleneha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Sayevayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. So Krishna spoke these verses in the beginning of the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna said, "In the beginning I spoke this Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan in turn spoke to his son Vaivasvata Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku, and then the saintly kings understood it in that way in the Parampara system. But over a period of time, this knowledge, as it is appears to be lost. Therefore, I have come to again re-establish this knowledge, and I have chosen you, Arjuna, to this time to give this knowledge because you are not only my devotee, you are my friend also. So, therefore, you are fit to understand this Uttama Rahasya, the mystery of this transcendental science. Like this, Krishna tells to Arjuna. And immediately, Arjuna's question is, how is it possible? We both are contemporaries, and the sun god Vivaswan is senior to you by birth. So how am I to understand that in the beginning you spoke this Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan? And that immediately Krishna replies, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham vetta sarvani natvam vetta parantapa. Krishna says, Oh Arjuna, both you and I have passed many lives before. I remember all of them, but you don't remember them. Why? Because Krishna does not change his body, but Arjuna changes his body. Jivatma changes his body. Therefore, whatever things were there pertaining to the past life, he forgets. Whereas the Supreme Lord, he comes, Sambhavami Atma Mayaya, he comes with by his own accord in his original form, he comes. Therefore, he is not uh, changing his body is transcendental, he comes in his original spiritual transcendental form every time. Therefore, there's no question of forgetting for Krishna. Now, a pure devotee like Narad Muni, he also attains perfection because he, by the mercy of Krishna, he also attains that perfected stage of liberation. So he is a liberated soul. So liberated soul and conditioned soul, both are different. Hmm? Conditioned soul is subjected to the laws of karma and subjected to the influence of Kala. Therefore, conditioned soul forgets everything about his past life. Whereas a liberated soul like Narad Muni, he attains equality in quality with Krishna. He becomes as good as Krishna. Therefore, Narad Muni also, because he's a liberated soul, his memory is still fresh, it is undisturbed by time. Of course, all this Narad Muni will explain in the coming verses. But what we have to understand, the point that Prabhupada mentions here is, as spirit is not annihilated even after the annihilation of the material body, spiritual consciousness is also not annihilated. There are many examples for this, isn't it, in the Bhagavatam. For example, Gajendra. Gajendra had learned spiritual prayers from his spiritual master in his past life. And when the crocodile attacked, and in a stage of helplessness, Gajendra was able to recall those prayers that he had learnt in his past life, and he offered those prayers. And immediately the Supreme Lord came and rescued Gajendra. That means whatever spiritual activities we do, with utter seriousness, whatever spiritual credits that we have accumulated, that will never be lost. At the right time, the Lord seated in our heart as Paramatma will give us that remembrance, and he will help us remember Krishna at the right time. Therefore, Swalpamapi yasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Krishna says, even a slight endeavor in devotional service can save us from the greatest dangers. Right? So let us see what Narad Muni answers to all these queries of Vyasadeva in the coming session. So anyone has any question or quick comment anyone wants to make, please unmute yourself and you can speak. If you have any question, any comment
Yeah, Hare
quickly.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Ratnadi.
Prabhu, see, one doubt here, as you told about following the spiritual master with full seriousness, that is called initiation. And
Yeah.
Prabhupada also says in some places that if anybody reads his books, they are already initiated by him. So,
Yes.
what is the difference between the formal initiation and this initiation just which we get by reading his books? See, many of us haven't taken formal initiation, but still we are reading
Yeah.
Prabhupada books. So, what is
Yes.
the main difference between the two? Means
Yeah.
practically or spiritually also, except that we'll get a different name. Except this point,
Yeah.
what is that difference? But means how we can say means how can differentiate between the two?
Yeah. So Prabhupada said the Diksha ceremony is only a ceremony, but still it is important because the Dikshas in Diksha ceremony, what happens is the disciple promises to the spiritual master in front of the spiritual master, in front of the deities, in front of the fire, in front of the Vaishnavas. He promises that I shall now accept Srila Prabhupada as my spiritual master and I shall follow his instructions of chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day throughout my life. I shall also follow the four regulative principles throughout my life. So, this is a very serious commitment, right? In front of the spiritual master, in front of the yajna, in front of the fire, you are making this statement. It is a very serious thing. And formally, you become accepted as the disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And formally, you get connected to the Guru Shishya Parampara. So these are all not ordinary things. Even though these are only ceremonies, if you say, oh, this is only a ritual part of it. But this ritual also, Prabhupada said, is very important because this brings in a great degree of seriousness in the disciple's mind. That is number one. Number two is, of course, Prabhupada said, whoever is reading my books is already an initiated disciple. But then Prabhupada also expected that those who are becoming serious after reading his books should come forward and take formal initiation from him. Otherwise, he would not have instituted this process of Diksha ceremony at all, isn't it? He could have just said, you read my books and you're already initiated. So, initiation, here we should understand, those who read my books are already initiated, means what? They have begun their spiritual journey. That means Prabhupada expects that we become serious after reading Srila Prabhupada books, understand the gravity of the process of Krishna consciousness, take it very seriously, and come to the point of accepting Srila Prabhupada formally as the spiritual master and dedicate one's time and energy in the service of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna consciousness. So, hope that answers your question.
Okay, Prabhu. Sure.
Hare
Is there
Krishna
any other?
Babaji.
Hare Krishna Pranam. Yes.
Uh, so these narration, what is being asked by Vyasa Prabhu to Narada,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was narrated by the Sutta Goswami.
No,
I'm
no,
like,
no. Suta Goswami is later narrating it. Suta Goswami is later narrating all these conversations between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva to the sages of Naimisharanya.
no, no. The story began from Narad, Vyasadeva's, dissatisfaction. Narad comes in between, and before that, Sutta Goswami was given a Vyasa asana in a Naimisharanya. So this is Shruta Goswami who is describing everything. I'm just not getting this.
Yeah, Suta Goswami is describing all these things
This
uh,
this
to the sages
content.
of Naimisharanya. Yes.
Okay, okay. That is what we are listening. What he's telling to Parikshit Maharaj about the Vyasadev and the Narada's discussion.
Yes, whatever happened in
Uh-huh.
the past, the discussion between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva, is now again narrated by Suta Goswami to the sages of
Yes, yes,
Naimisharanya.
yes.
Yes. So Bhagavatam is a multi-level conversation.
Mm,
Bhagavad Gita is a two-level conversation. Whatever Krishna told to Arjuna, that is narrated by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. So in that way, Bhagavad Gita is very simple. It is a two-level conversation. One conversation inside another conversation. But Bhagavatam is a multi-level conversation. You will find multiple levels of conversation within each conversation that we will see as we keep progressing in the Bhagavatam, especially in the second canto, third canto, you will find that. So as of now, what we are reading is whatever Narad Muni spoke to Vyasadeva, that was narrated, the same thing was
mm,
narrated by Suta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. That is why you will find Suta Uvacha, you will find Vyasa Uvacha, Narada Uvacha, all this will come. Is it okay?
mm. Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
So here is one question posted on the chat by one of the participants. Without taking formal initiation, Hare Krishna Prabhu, without uh, formal diksha, if we follow up Srila Prabhupada's instruction, is the effect same or different? Now, following Srila Prabhupada's instructions means to follow all his instructions. That is the meaning of following his instructions, isn't it? So, Prabhupada has also instructed that you must take diksha. So, as I mentioned, diksha means it is a serious commitment. So, if we want to make progress in spiritual life, this formal initiation is very, very important. So, if you are wanting to seriously follow what Srila Prabhupada is saying, why don't you officially take Diksha and seriously follow? Because anyway, you want to follow seriously, isn't it? And this is not a new thing because everyone in the past also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself accepted a formal initiation from his spiritual master Ishwar Puri, isn't it? So we have to follow in the previous in the footsteps of the previous devotees, in the previous authorities. Therefore, taking formal initiation is very, very important, especially for one who wants to make spiritual progress seriously, right? And of course, uh, as now we discussed previously, it's not that after taking initiation, only your name will change. No, that is just an external thing, but you are actually getting connected with the entire Guru Parampara, and you are declaring it to yourself, especially to yourself, that now I am a disciple of my spiritual master. I will lead my life according to his instructions. So this is called taking Guru Ashraya, taking your spiritual life to the next level of seriousness, which is very much required. Hope that answers your question. So I think there are no more questions. So we shall close the session. Thank you very much for your valuable time. We shall again meet tomorrow at 8 p.m. Please do join us. We shall continue to read from the same chapter and we shall see what answers Narad Muni gave to these queries of Vyasadeva. Thank you. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.